let's jump to this Kuklinski thing for a second now. What did you hear or do you know about Kuklinski?
His nickname was the Iceman.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that I ever heard, the only time I've ever heard him mentioned was from Kenny McCabe. And you know who Kenny was. And Kenny was the closest guy to him. He did more with Kuklinski than anybody else. Because he used to tell me when I would go into the city and have lunch with him and things like this. I was already retired. And he used to tell me, this guy is lying, but they want to believe him because he's saying things they'd like to clear and things like that. But he said, Kenny kept catching him in lies, and he never
said he killed Roy Demeo.
Yeah. Then Frank told me that he claims he killed Roy Demeo. Now we know he couldn't get within a mile of Roy Demeo, and if he did, he'd be dead. So.
Well, Frank said he couldn't even identify what was in the trunk with Roy when you said
Yeah. Now, how could you not know what was in that trunk? It was one of the most shocking things we ever saw. I was there when we popped the trunk out.
Oh, you were there?
I was there, and when we popped the trunk on his caddy, and I was standing right next to the guy banging it. Thing pops open. Right on top is a chandelier, or a shade for a chandelier, or something. Big lamp shade, or chandelier. I'm not sure. Chandelier. It was huge, sitting right on top of him. So they pull that out, and of course then Roy's hands are up. He'd been shot through his hands. So.
Tell him a little bit about that when you found the body. How did you find the body? How did you know?
Roy turned up missing. We already knew. We had informants that were telling us that Roy Demeo is going to be clipped by the Gambino family, for the simple reason that they didn't trust him. Not because they thought he would go talk on his own, but he couldn't take pressure. He couldn't take the heat.
Yeah, he was eating Valiums. So
yeah.
He was eating a handful of Valiums.
Yeah, well, you know that part. I don't know, but that was our word that he was going to be clipped, and he was going to be clipped because they didn't feel once he was arrested and the pressure was put on him, he would fold and he would make a deal and testify, and so that's why he had to be killed. And so we knew that.
How did you find him?
Well, I ran a couple of surveillances on him. He went to that girl's house in Brooklyn one night that me and Phil Scala, another agent, he's now the supervisor of the Gambino family squad. Phil was just a young agent. I actually got him on our squad. I got Phil when he first came to New York. He was such a sharp young agent that I told Bruce Mao, you got to get this kid on your squad. It's the best agent I've seen in years.
I mean, how did you know where the car was and blah, 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 blah?
We had an informant that was very close to not Roy, because we didn't have anybody real close to Roy, but I guess knew the girl, Patty.
Yeah,
Patty. Yeah, who was a bar
She was a
tender at the barmaid at the Gemini.
She was also a junkie.
Yeah, we knew that too. But whoever it was, I think she may have been the informant. I forget.
She was always there, right?
I would say she might have been the informant, but I never knew who the informant was, and I had no need to know it. And in the bureau, you don't ask who the informant is unless somebody wants to tell you. You never ask who the informant is. But if it's reliable information, it's what we want to know, then we act on it. And one of the things was that at the end, Roy was scared. He was jumping around. He was like a chicken with his head cut off. This is what we were told. And She probably was the informant, now that I think about it, because she said, or whoever said it, said that Roy Demeo is going to come to her house. We had the address and the whole thing, and like 7:30 that night, a particular night, and he was going to interview her about something that happened at the club. Maybe, I don't even know what it could be.
Well, I know he killed that kid over her.
Yeah, see, I don't know. It was something that she knew about.
Well,
And he was coming to ask her about it, whatever it was.
Well, the story that I know, because I was there when it happened,
Okay.
is she was after this guy, this young guy, and that used to come to the Gemini. Nothing, had nothing to do with the DeMeo crew, nothing like
Right.
that. But she really wanted to go out with this kid, and he wouldn't go out with her. So what happened was she told Roy, to get even with this kid, that he called Roy a motherfucker.
Oh, yeah, I did hear that.
And
That's
when
right.
me
Yeah.
and Roy was standing outside, he walked the kid out, and he said, "Don't worry," he says, "all you're gonna get is a smack or something like that." And they got into the caddy, and
whacked him.
Carla Profeta was there too. And then we started to pop in the flash, and the kid go down, and Roy just drove around, opened up the window, said, "I'll be back in a minute," took off, and came back with another car. And
That's probably what she was going to be.
yeah, because I know she was directly involved in that.
Okay, well then that was what it was. Anyway, Phil and I covered that, and we were outside. It was wintertime. It was wasn't. I'll tell you, we did that surveillance within a month or less before he was killed, because we knew that he was going to be killed. I mean, the word was out he was going to be killed. In fact, I think they even told him he was going to be killed.
So there's no way in hell that Kuklinski could come anywhere near that situation.
No.
Well, he says he killed Roy Demeo. That's a joke.
Right.
I mean, I think everybody has a pretty good idea of what killed
Let's
Roy
put it
Demeo.
this way. How about this? Which is a better statement on killing Roy Demeo. Paul Castellano, while Roy Demeo was still alive. Now, remember I told you we had the wire on a bug at Angelo Ruggiero's house, and it was down in his playroom, his den. That's where his office, quote, office was. And he would meet with guys down there. That's why we had a bug there. One of the guys he used to meet regularly, 2 or 3 times a week, was John Gotti's brother, Gene Gotti. Angelo and Gene were good friends. Now, John was his best friend, but John was, moving up the line, and he was like, he wasn't around as much like as he used to be with Angelo. But Jeannie Gotti was regular, because by that time, John was a capo, and John was reporting to Paul Castellano. He was going up on Sunday mornings to Castellano's house, meeting along with Jimmy Brown, Fiala, all the capos.
Yeah, Nino.
Up to the house and meet with Castellano. One day, Jeannie Gotti goes into Angelo's house, and he's kind of whispering it, like low voice, but we did get it up so we could hear it. And Jeannie says, "You know what? You know what Paulie told John yesterday? Because this was a Monday, and Sunday was Sunday morning, because they used to meet on Sunday mornings because the FBI doesn't work on Sundays, except we do."
Right.
Because I was up, I used to, that was one of my jobs, was to go run that Sunday surveillances. Anyway, Jeannie says, "You know what Paulie told John yesterday? He wants him to take a look at Roy Demeo." But when he says that, that's how the boss would say something to you. Cryptic,
Yeah, sure.
He'd never say, "I want you to
Whack
kill him."
him, right.
Take a look at him. And that really interpreted it. And Jeannie interpreted it. I mean, Jeannie says, he told John to take a look at him. And you know what that means. It means he wants John to take a look at Roy and his crew to see if we have to kill him, can you do it? And then Jeannie says, you know Roy Demeo? He says, you know he's got an army around him? You can't get near that guy. He's got all those young guys. He said, you can't get near the guy. So, and John said that. And he says, John said to me, you know, we can't get near this guy. Because Roy didn't trust John Gotti either. He was afraid. He was the most afraid of John Gotti. But John Gotti was afraid of Roy. And John said, I can't get, my crew can't, we can't kill Roy. So that means his own crew has to do it.
Right.
Which is what they did. We think Nino was there, because I don't think anybody, he wouldn't come, it was at night. They lured him in to the club, that's what we know, I mean to the garage. And Patty tested his garage. And we just think the crew was there, probably the main guy, Joey, Anthony, Henry, they probably all were
They're
there.
probably all there. They actually found one of the cars where the ID number had Henry Borelli's print on it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't even hear that.